The best thing about the UFO community is that you get to meet some really interesting people. A channel that I always watch and really enjoy is run by Pavel from Tijuana in Mexico. So today Pavel and I got together to talk about what's going on in 2025. A lot. And fascinatingly, we both have a shared worldview of the phenomenon. That it's ancient, that it's real, but most of all, it's global. It's not just in New Jersey. So here's a link to Pavel's channel, but today sit back and enjoy a discussion where we talk about everything from psionics to tacos. Hey everybody, guess who we have? We have Pavel. Hi Pavel. We were just talking about names yeah, I like, it's good when people call you names, but no, this is Pavel. Hi, how are you doing, mate?
How's it going, Simon? Nice to see you again. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, Pavel and I keep in touch. Pavel's very much a leading international commentator on the phenomenon. He's based in Tijuana. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes,
I am.
fantastic. Which is, if you don't know your geography, you should. It's in Mexico, but it's very close to San Diego. And and lots of very interesting things coming out of Pavel's channel. He's a good international commentator, and I think that's so important when so much of the UFO debate seems to be hijacked by people in American Congress, as if there weren't flying effing saucers all over the world. Of course there are. I live in France, which is another perspective. So Pavel, that's great. Today, I'm absolutely fascinated by your home birth country, and I know you talk about stuff all over the world, but I'm going to pin you down to Mexico and talk about some of the incredible things that have been seen. So Mexico has always been, for thousands of years, a hotbed of phenomenon. Would you? Yeah. Why?
And not only UFOs though, because there's a lot of culture related to shamanism and ancient civilizations that in many ways they're also describe some other type of phenomena. And that is something that I have grown up with since I was young. And that is obviously ufology is also big in Mexico. You were mentioning a place in Morelos, the state of Morelos, Cuernavaca. There's another place in Morelos called Tepoztlan, which has a big mountain called the Cerro de Teposteco.
Yeah.
And that is the hottest place for UFO sightings in the center of the country, in Tepoztlan, Morelos.
I remember reading about that place and how people can literally see orbs and what we now probably would call UAP over the mountain. Way back I'm old enough to remember buying books in the 1970s. Yeah, Mexico really has that. Do you think the phenomenon there is related to a geological phenomenon, or is it more spiritual? I mean, have people...
I guess it depends on your perspective, because if you're more scientific and you're more attached to the materialistic paradigm, not so idealistic, then you could give a more prosaic explanation. But traditions are a thing in Mexico, and we celebrate the Day of the Dead. We celebrate the Virgen de Guadalupe if you're a Catholic. So there is a lot of spirituality in Mexico, of many types: the religious type, the shamanistic type. So I guess it depends on your upbringing and what you believe in, I guess. But in my case,
Mexico is such an amazing culture. I mean, obviously, the things that you've just mentioned are mainly, modern Mexico. But I mean, Mexico and culture goes back for thousands of years with some of the most amazing civilizations. I spent some time in Mexico City and visiting the museum there. It was at the time when Eric von Däniken had written Chariots of the Gods, and and a lot of people were reassessing the Mayan carvings and seeing spaceships, and what the archaeologists in Mexico City main museum said is, bollocks, look at the culture, study the depth of tradition and what these symbols are actually. Don't interpret them. I mean, you must have seen those amazing carvings. What do you think they are?
Yeah, there are many though, but I get
Mm,
what you mean when people confuse one thing for the other and they modernize it in a way.
yeah,
Specifically with hieroglyphs and all that type of stuff.
yeah,
Also, I'm pretty sure someone made a correlation between the modern interpretation of flying saucers or
yeah.
UFOs and the lines of Nazca, for example, which are in Peru,
Right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's easy to like, especially with the science fictiony world we grew up in,
yeah.
Star Wars and Alien and all of that stuff. I
Star
get it.
Trek.
Yeah. So, but in Mexico, when it comes to the Maya culture,
Yeah.
I regard them as one of the smartest civilizations in
Mm,
history. They
mm,
invented the number zero, for
hmm.
just to give you one example.
Wow.
So, and yeah, there's a lot of confusion of what they actually were.
Right.
Um, and there's also a lot of lore with the gods that they worshipped
Yeah.
and all this stuff. So,
And
uh,
I mean, their culture and their civilization and their cities, and obviously, visiting Yucatan, and seeing how much stuff they did in astronomy. I mean, they
yeah,
really understood the night sky.
yeah. And that whole area is already a place that has a lot of history because
Yeah.
if you recall, 65 million years ago,
Mm.
uh, a meteorite crashed there in the Yucatan Peninsula. And yeah, we yeah
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I mean that 65 million years ago event just off the north west coast of Yucatan, changed our planet. I mean, it
yeah
literally we probably are here today because the lizard kingdom was vaporized by an asteroid hit, as
yeah.
as will happen in 2 years' time. No, it won't. But asteroids are a thing that do hit Earth, and that was certainly a big one, and it changed the
By the
evolution of
way,
life. Yes, yes.
did you see the latest correction on the percentage of that asteroid that is
Keeps
gonna?
getting bigger. I know.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of scary, isn't it?
Sure, sure. So I worked with Atlas, which is the asteroid last hope impact study that looks for near Earth orbit, and they're very clever at doing is finding smaller asteroids, but which could be still city killers,
Yeah,
and tracking an erratic orbit from only a few sightings, and
yeah.
I don't think this one was trapped by them. I think it was from Chile, but yeah, no, they give the deal is that they give every potential asteroid they find a scale of trivial or non-trivial and give it a number. And yeah, this one in a couple of years' time, as they get more data on it, starts becoming up the scale of risk.
Do you
Uh,
think that based on all the rumors that we've been hearing in our space, do you remember that 1950s anti-gravity summit that happened at Chapel Hill?
oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
sure. We all talk
so
about it. Yeah.
talking about that, do you think it may be possible that this tech derived from aliens or whatever it is,
What
do you
tech?
think do you think it's already, if it's possible, do you think it can help us deviate this asteroid or
Ooh, oh, okay. Two questions. Are there aspects of modern technology probably kept secret from you and I? Well, from me anyway. You probably know, but that originated from retro engineering aliens or given to humans by an extraterrestrial. Um, um, yes, in a very qualified way. I think we're doing it right now. I think when the UFO community blandly, I shouldn't say blandly, when they banter about the five observables as if that's something to do with UFOs, the origin of the five observables are the US defense contractors. They
Yeah.
saw UAP and UFOs and sightings and encounters, and didn't have one. I don't think at the time. Maybe they have now, but they looked at what they did. Moving at hypersonic speeds, transmedium operations, no obvious means of propulsion, and those five observables were the way of imagining for an engineer today, and this is really happening, how we as mere mortals could build something of the same. And what I didn't realize, Pavel, is that it's commonly known now, you probably know this, is that there are six observables. And I think the sixth observable is really interesting. And that is, we've gone through all the kind of engineering of what these UAP or craft can do. But the sixth observable is the effect on humans. So people have been injured by exposure. And why they're interested in that, says me talking to people who have done this work, like Dr. Gary Nolan, is if you know the type of injury to human flesh, you can work out what was the frequency or the power source of the of the UAP that affected them. So the sixth observable is something that is very being studied. So yeah. I think UAPs are real. They always have been. There's unknown phenomenon in our sky, and of course, they move in strange ways, amazing ways, which of course could be weaponized. So, and sure, when we mastered that, if we haven't already, we could do things like deflect asteroids. Yeah, no problem, mate.
Sounds really wild, but that asteroid really is coming towards us.
Oh, it is coming towards us, yeah. And we live in an amazing time. I think 2025 is really a transitional. We'll look back in human history and say 2024, 2025, and the end of this first decade of the 21st century, second decade of the 21st century. I'm old. Will be the time where we will confirm that we're not alone in the universe, because we have that confirmation already, and we will admit that we're working on things which are non-human intelligence. This will be right now we're living through this incredible period of time.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Right, I'm going to dive back into my favorite country in the world, Mexico, as well as oh, it is.
Sorry, I got distracted. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. This is a good conversation. I really like talking to you. You're so open-minded and have such great information. The chat that we had about technological signature was really good, and all that stuff. It's excellent. It really opened that debate and to a wider audience. So that's what we're doing on social media science, because the bloody main media aren't doing it. They're doing flying saucer stories. We are actually deep diving into what's happening. Mexico. Why don't I just go straight and put you on the spot?
Go ahead.
Here. I have not gone down this road because it feels really weird to me. Are the mummies alien? What's the best evidence, or are they just not?
Are you ready to get your mind blown a little bit?
Oh yeah, I was just like I've been like, I have to ask you about this because I'm just avoiding the subject. It seems so. All right, let me put my position, and then you can tell me why I'm wrong. It seems to me that if you've got a creature and it's mummified, you can instantly, with a piece of litmus paper, tell you it's human. So what's the debate? they're either non-human from terrestrial Earth or they're not. So what are they?
That's a simplistic question. Let me rephrase it
Okay,
for you.
right.
Because
Reset my paradigm, please.
the main thing to know about this discovery, because they were discovered,
They're
is
real.
that
Yeah.
there are modern copies of them that were created to disinform the public about them. Those exist. There are ancient constructions, as far as I can tell, that of a mummy that is 60 centimeters tall. This has a lot of debate added to it because there's two camps. Ones that say that they're ancient constructions, the other ones that say that they were actual living beings, the little ones.
Little guys.
And then the ones that are our size, human size, those are the really weird ones that actually they're real. They actually, the a part of the Peruvian government didn't want to acknowledge that they were real. And just last year there was a hearing in Peru where two doctors confirmed, and they did tests on two specimens.
Yeah.
And one of the specimens, they confirmed that the tridactyl features in their hands and feet are natural. They haven't been tampered with or anything.
Okay, they're not constructed, right?
No. And those do have, one of them is pregnant, and in the MRI you can see the little fetus, and you can see the three little fingers.
3 fingers.
That's really difficult to fake. I'm not saying it's not possible, but there's just too many scientists who are involved in this, and
my mind is blown. So back in ancient culture of Peru, there was possibly a cultural thing of constructing the dead or mummifying them in strange ways.
Yeah, and this is why I think the smaller bodies are constructed, because they were found next to the real ones. And it's like a kind of like a ritualistic thing that they do, that they construct different things and they put it around a real body. That's what they used to do with beings or bodies that they deemed sacred or from the royalty, stuff like that,
So there was a big human surrounded by constructed humans.
Yes,
and there were very easy to be confused by the constructed
There were
ones.
many bodies that were that size, and they're real. They're rolling them out right now, the DICOM images. I have a friend, Gonzalo. Do you know who he is?
Nope.
Gonzalo Chavez. He's my collaborator, and he also works on the mummies a lot. He's creating a website that is going to be open source for everybody, with all the DICOM images and all the tomographies and X-rays and everything that there is about all of these bodies. And it's like, honestly, to me, that's not even the most exciting part, because in one of the hearings in Mexico, there's an Argentinian doctor called Celestino Piotti. He's an anthropologist from Argentina, and he testified in the Mexican Congress when the mummies were presented. But what he said is different to a lot of the different interpretation of what these are, because he's a specialist in craniometry. He measures the skulls, and he knows when he sees one and measures it, he knows whether it's an Australopithecus or a Homo habilis, or he knows, because he knows the exact measurements, and he knows which one is after the next one, And when he measured those, he says that those skulls are representative of a species that is ahead of us in the future, not behind us.
From cranial development.
Yes. And when he said that, I was like, so what is he saying? Is he saying that these beings are our descendants? Which is pretty wild if you...
Right.
And he said it in Congress, and was like...
Sure.
I started pursuing the guy to have him on the show. I've already had him 3 times.
Oh, great.
And he still maintains the same position, but he's a very prominent doctor from Argentina. He founded the specialty of medical anthropology in Argentina. So
okay, sure.
he has the credentials to talk about what he's talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, cool.
And he found some really interesting stuff about the human genome throughout history, how there every 26,000 years there seems to be some kind of modification within our DNA. And that modification comes from he says he calls it the anterior being. That's what he calls it. But he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know if it's human or some other type of DNA because it's not clear.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
That's wild, right?
I know. Yeah, I have so many questions. Yeah, that's great. Oh, right. So the small mummies maybe are constructions on the whole, but look at the more modern human-sized ones, and some of them are from the future.
That's
okay. All right. Oh,
I'm not saying that I believe everything, but that's what I've investigated so far.
There's something going on. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Oh.
If you want to add a more pragmatic kind of explanation, you could say that the beings have tridactyl features. That is 100% confirmed. They were once living beings that carbon date between 1700 and 2000 years ago. And
that's not very old.
They are very interesting specimens worth looking into, but I don't know if they're alien or not. To be honest with you, I think Piotti hasn't reached the point where these seem more evolved than us, but not necessarily because they're from the future, but because possibly before the Younger Dryas impacts, some species that was living here, that is from here, had to go underground,
Yeah.
That's a possibility too.
I love it. So years ago in my youth, well, it wasn't very long ago. No, I'm joking. I worked on this mega series for television called Yellowstone, super volcano of destruction.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it was great. It really changed. It was such an important film, and it was the first time that the size of Yellowstone as a caldera type super volcano, caldera, great word, became obvious, and that also that it had exploded or in the past, and it will again in the future. So that was, but here's a piece of secret inside information I don't share with many people. I can today, is that while researching that film, we spoke to a person, a scientist from a university in Illinois, who said that the world, humans and everything on the world, suffers these things called bottlenecks. So where there's great diversity of life, which due to an event such as a volcano or an asteroid impact, everything gets squeezed down and very few of the diversity survive, maybe underground. That's what prompted me to say this. Or in a part of the world that somehow escaped from the ravages of whatever it was. And then from that tiny biodiversity, we then evolved further, but from a very small source, and keep doing this every few 100,000 years. But what he said, and I was like, whoa, what evidence have you got from this? And he said the most amazing thing to me. He said there are fossil records prior to the last extinction or bottleneck event that shows human diversity far more diverse in size and in digits, there and in head shape than we have today. But they didn't survive the near extinction event, and they didn't go through the bottleneck. And then the
I've
ones
never
that,
heard that before. That's very,
yeah,
very interesting.
he's called.
Wow.
If you look him up, he's called Stanley Ambrose. He's a very established professor. And I was like, "Oh, that's a fantastic film." The idea that we continually have on Earth diversity which gets snubbed out, and only the lucky survive, as you say, maybe underground or maybe in an area, maybe wherever.
You
You're
know
lucky.
what struck
Yeah,
me about this Dr. Piotti is that
yeah,
many of the theories that he has, he wrote a book about it, are very similar to another very, very respected anthropologist that
hmm,
is very tied to the UFO topic, which is Michael Masters, Dr. Michael Masters.
yeah.
And when I heard what Dr. Piotti was telling me about, I found many similarities with a lot of the work Dr. Masters does. And I was like,
True.
that can't be a coincidence that two anthropologists that don't know each other are reaching similar conclusions to what may have happened.
Sure.
That's,
As a journalist, you should put the two together. That's
yeah,
great. Yeah, you can
that
have
was
that
pretty
big
wild.
overview on that. Oh, that's fantastic and fabulous. Um, so back to Mexico. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, Mexico is such a fantastic country. I am about to have my huevas rancheras for breakfast, of course, even although I live in France. I'm
They
complete.
surely call them something different in France, don't they?
Well, oh, I have to tell you this funny Mexican food story. So, the one food group, ethnic food group, because I live in Europe, that you can't get in France is Mexican food. The French
I
people
see.
have a fantastic cuisine. They
Yeah,
don't
they
like
do.
spices. They don't like hot sauce, and so you don't get very much hot stuff, and you don't. It's quite rare to.
Cowards.
Yeah, completely. Come on, France, get it together. It's the best food in the world. It really is, and the variety of food actually in Mexico is way better than Taco Bell. Come on, I mean that's just ridiculous. It's brilliant food, but I was so amazed that a street wagon, one of these food carts, came to our village in the car park and said, taco. I went, oh, great, a taco
Let's get
truck.
tacos.
I went, oh, I couldn't believe it. So I was down there with the dog waiting for this woman to turn on the taco truck. And I said, taco. And she said, chicken or beef? I went, oh, I don't. Beef taco, fantastic. Make it large. And she said, it'll be 20 minutes. I went, oh, okay, all right. So I came back, walked the dog, and she handed me this weirdest thing I've ever seen. So in France, they call tacos a soft tortilla wrap with potatoes and beef and cheese. I was like, that's not a taco. I was like, so now the word taco has been assimilated into the French language and somebody's reinvented it. In France, they also call it in French a mattress because it's like a folded sandwich of squishy stuff. Oh, I was so
Yeah.
disappointed.
I mean, it's probably their revenge that we call fries French fries here, right?
It was the French revenge, exactly. Montezuma did come to France. I love it. Oh, it's
That's
great.
wonderful.
Yeah. So what? What? Why is Mexico such a hotbed of phenomenon?
Especially here where I'm from. I grew
Mm.
up in Tijuana and I have Ensenada right here. This is where the Tic Tac encounter happened in 2004.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
and we get every few years, we get what they're called the Pacific Lights, Las Luces del
Ah,
Pacífico, which is essentially UFOs, lights that are like in the horizon. They
right.
stay there for a while and then they start moving. Then they shut up into the sky. It's
Ooh.
it happens pretty often, and there's like a really hot spot uh, called Isla de Guadalupe, Guadalupe Island. I think Lou Elizondo even went there on one of his shows that he did.
Oh, wow.
And there are many fishermen there that report lights coming out of the ocean.
Oh,
And
great.
when they made measurements of the electromagnetic area, there's a major disturbance near the island, like north of the island, where there seems to be a lot of activity there. Something is in there that
But
is
fishermen have
causing.
seen transmedium lights.
Yes,
It's quite
yes.
well known.
There are multiple reports and even close encounters of people flying small airplanes, because they do this in Ensenada, right? They hire airplane pilots to take a look at the currents, and based on the currents, they choose where to fish.
Oh, yeah,
because that's where
Sure.
that's where the fish are.
Yeah.
And some of these pilots have had encounters with some of these transmedium vehicles coming out of the water and very close to them, like near misses and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really. Oh, you need to get down there.
I went there. And I went there in November, I think it was. A documentary filmmaker came to visit me at my house. He stayed at my house. His name is Ida Cuellar, and he's from Spain. And he wanted to go to Ensenada and interview some of these fishermen, and we did. We also interviewed the Mexican commercial pilot who also testified in Mexico that same day Dr. Piotti testified. He testified
has he finished the documentary? Is it?
No, we only filmed the first part of it, and we're gonna try and get some pilots from the US to speak to us on record. I want to try and get Mr. Kevin Day.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, send me any teasers or previews of what you've done so far. Certainly, viewers would like to see this. I think the Mexican story is good, and relating it to other aviation incidents. The interesting thing that's going on in Europe right now, it's a strange country that's not America, is that
not a country, but I get it.
Region of the world. A few countries, in fact. I live in one of them. Is that the European Union are looking at aviation safety as related to UAP for the first time, because there's there's a Portuguese EU MEP, member of European Parliament, who's actually trying to raise money to get more awareness of encounters that commercial aircraft have in the EU with UAP. It's not talked about. I mean, many pilots, many airlines, we have low-cost airlines like Ryanair and EasyJet in Europe, which are just like, if you're going to be an EasyJet pilot, are you going to lose your job by saying I saw a flying saucer? No, you won't mention it. So that stigma has to be bust, and I think that's going to happen, which is good.
Let's hope so. Let's hope things change because it is happening worldwide, and it gets really dangerous.
Pavel, let's keep saying UAP are real. UAP, of course, are going to be worldwide. They're seen in Namibia. They are.
Everywhere.
They're not just in New Jersey. I mean, that's the most.
Yeah, there are hotspots, though. There are hotspots. That's real. That's for sure.
New Jersey? No.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Well, did you hear?
All right, I'm joking.
Did you hear there was this one story from comedian Joey Diaz on one of the Joe Rogan Experience episodes? He's from Jersey, and he talked about a flap that was really, really big in Jersey in the 70s. And I had no idea that was real. And he was like, it was like a lot of sightings daily for many, many days. And I was like, that's wild. So it is a hotspot, as it turns out. It is.
Yeah, I think that hotspot is, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think many sacred sites throughout the planet have UAP sightings. I mean, we tend to look at Skinwalker Ranch, but then you look at all those amazing places in Mexico or all over the world where people see things, and often human religious culture build build things on that site because the site is interesting.
Yeah,
Certainly in
that's kind of
Europe.
weird, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. You get here in Europe when Christianity emerged as an idea. The pre-Christian religious sites were used as building rubble, and people put up churches. So look what's underneath them. I always say
Yeah,
that must
that
have
would
happened.
be.
Mexico is a classic example of that when those bloody Europeans came and messed up the taco. I mean, it's just terrible. Well, actually,
Yeah.
I mean, is oh, you're such fun to talk to. I mean, is the traditional? No, not traditional. Is the international version of Mexican food? Does it date back to pre-conquistador, or is it modern Mexico?
I guess it depends on where you are, because if you remain in the south, down in the Yucatan Peninsula,
Right.
there's a lot of traditional dishes there that have been there for over 1,000 years. So
Predate the Europeans.
yeah, so it's but there are a few, they're not many, because we also have a lot of uh things that we got from the Spaniards. I mean, they
Yeah,
did colonize us.
I remember that happening. Yeah. I'm old. Yeah, Spain. I mean that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So yeah, I guess. Yeah.
it must have been such a shock. Uh, no, this is a great conversation. I remember as a child reading how the Spaniards came off their ships, which were moored off the coast of Central South America, and then rowed ashore in these weird creatures called horses. And the South Americans had never seen a horse. But
They
this,
thought they were gods.
well, you would think, yeah, these giant kind of big guys, yeah.
Yeah.
But Mexico must have had horses. I mean, I don't
I
know.
guess so. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because
I
North
mean,
America had horses because they
if
came.
they arrive to the jungle in
Uh,
Mexico, which doesn't have many horses, it has a different type of fauna. Um,
yeah.
it has many jaguars. It has a lot of different types of apes. It has a lot of different types of snakes. But I don't think there are horses there on that area where the Spaniard arrived. I guess in the north there
Yeah,
could
that's what
be.
I'm thinking. The north of
Yeah,
Mexico must, I mean, the wonderful north of Mexico that people also should explore as well. I mean, the south is such a diverse country. It's brilliant.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, I don't, horses are rubbish in jungles. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, dude. It's like,
Snakes are good. I was sitting in Yucatan under a tree eating my sandwich, taco probably, and a snake fell out of the tree. It was
oh my
great.
god, no.
No, it was
I would shit my pants, man. I would
oh no,
shit
I
my
was
pants.
really happy to see him. I think, but he just scooted off. But yeah, he was big. I was like, oh okay, all right. No,
Whoa.
hi.
Was it like a python or something like that? Or
Yeah, it was.
oh my god. No,
Well,
I'd shit my
it, it,
pants for
for a
sure.
European, any snake is like a python. I don't know. Let's talk about what's going on in the world right now. So
Yeah.
what are you covering on your channel?
Okay, so the main topic that I'm covering, and it is something that I don't know if you actually believe in it or not.
I don't know.
I do believe in it because I experienced some of that stuff firsthand. So
Hmm.
I know what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I cover psi abilities. That's the main topic that I cover on Psicoactivo, actually. So that's why it's called Psicoactivo. And right now, the
Sure.
stuff about psionics and all that stuff from
Hmm.
News Nation, I do have some issues with the terminology, and I have some issues with the fact that big money from big tech is getting involved in the topic. That is not something that I like, because if you
Sure.
just like meditate it for a little bit and think about it,
Mm.
big tech is currently one of the powers in the world, and they
Yeah.
control a lot of
Mm-hmm.
our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and right now, if this secret is being kept by the legacy programs or the agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and big tech is making a move to take those secrets from them, I don't think that they're gonna just give it to the people, you know,
Well, no.
because they're trying to monetize everything. So that is
And
something that I
weaponize everything. I mean,
definitely,
the big
and
money is,
weaponize everything.
yeah, it's weaponized.
That is
Yeah,
definitely something that I have a big problem with.
yeah,
And
yeah,
at this point, there are the debunkers and people who are uh, really just have an agenda to explain everything prosaically and not even take time to analyze data
yeah,
and correlations. But there are just healthy skeptics, which are always welcome because skepticism is necessary in this field, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But when it comes to that, um, I don't know. I just think it's a no brainer.
Yeah, same here. I think if you look at the last 4 or 5 films I've done, it's all been about. I've been really deep diving into Russell Targan, SRI, and remote viewing, and looking at the relationship between is there a biological system in our consciousness that
Yeah,
actually gives us the ability to look into the future or the past or remote viewing? And the answer is yes. You
yeah.
know, we are we are big atoms, most of us, and but inside our big atoms are is the subatomic world, and the subatomic world works in the universe, and the quantum universe, as far as I can see as a layperson, has um, different things than the big universe. So it tends to not have a same flowing time. It
And you
seems
know what?
everything's
It's really
connected.
it's really funny because people think we're talking about magic or stuff that is like
Oh no,
impossible to believe, but
right?
it doesn't happen like that. It happens with whatever you want to do in like a project you have. Where
Hmm.
does it start? It
Yeah,
starts with a thought,
right,
and it's gradual. You have to obviously
right.
do physical things and a whole process to get to that point, but it starts here. So that's what I think that we create the reality that is around us as time
Ah,
keeps going by. And some become
yeah,
better than others at
yeah.
it, but
Hmm.
we can all do it, I think. And I think that's
Completely agree.
something that yeah, people don't see it as if it was magic or something impossible. It's
And that's
not.
the danger of it being hijacked by defense corporations.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I literally was, I think I put it out, I did a film this week saying, come on, we all use these words. I had a premonition, or I
Yeah.
have a gut reaction, or I feel that this might happen. And we live in that world all the time. And what we're actually probably doing is as where most of us aren't that sensitive to the quantum conscious future. But if you are tuned into that more so and you're working for the CIA, you can actually use that premonition that we all have, because it's part of how we're built as humans, to break the timeline of the current. So look into the past and look into the future, which is very kind of mind-boggling, but that's that yeah, we need to understand that, and then it's a powerful tool that might well be how non-human intelligences work. So, and
Yeah.
Jake Barber saying, although Jake Barber talks a lot about prosaic ranges and helicopters, probably the most interesting thing he said was how he felt when he was in the presence of the NHI that he felt he was near, and it felt loving and interesting. That was like, oh, how do you deal with that? So you've been exploring those topics.
Oh yeah. And the day after Jake Barber came forward,
Right.
I did a video about it because something really strange happened. When I went to sleep, I woke up at around 3, 4 a.m., something like
Yeah.
that. Something woke me up that I started feeling chills throughout my entire body, and
Right.
I couldn't go back to sleep. And I went to my Discord and I asked if anybody had this happen to them. And a lot of people surprisingly said yes, that they
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
understand why it happened. And I was
But,
like, that's
were you
strange.
asking if other people were having it in concurrently?
No, on that same time that I
Yeah,
did.
that's what I meant. So the same
Yeah,
time you felt unease, you
yeah.
felt people were reporting that there was a general unease.
I figured I'd
Oh,
ask to my circle, and it's like we're talking about 100 people that follow
yeah,
the channel because my
Discord.
Discord
Yeah.
is a little bit secret right now. I don't want to make it
No,
that
no, no,
public
no.
yet,
I get it.
but you can leave this in though. Don't worry. And I
Right.
asked, and a lot of people did respond. It was like, yeah, it's some. I felt
Yeah.
something, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and that was really weird. I felt like a lot
Hmm.
of people felt kind of identified with that feeling that Jake expressed in camera, you
Yeah.
know?
It was a staggering moment, in the interview when he said that because we don't normally get. I mean, he's a bloke. He's talking. He's obviously a fighting person, and he's talking about helicopters and things. And then he gave this incredible description of how the contact with the NHI made him feel, and
Yeah.
it's obviously an ignored or it's not discussed that much, and I think I
No.
think it's
And
really
also it's
interesting.
because it's so complex, because
Yeah.
it's not easy to explain. And this coming from someone who
Hmm.
spent a decade consuming psychedelics
Right.
and going through extreme psychedelic experiences, and which are really overwhelming too, and also hard to explain. And but what
Hang on.
Jake,
You or Jake?
me,
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I was going to say, right.
yeah,
Okay, you. Right.
yeah, I don't know Jake's
No, no,
life or
no, no.
anything.
No, I
Me,
was unclear. Right. Okay,
yeah,
good. Carry on.
yeah, and uh, it's difficult to explain something like that because you
Yeah.
also, if you're a pragmatic person and someone who
Hmm.
is not necessarily religious, it's a slippery slope when you start talking about
Yeah,
this
it
stuff and
is.
people think like, is
Mhm.
this guy talking to me about something religious? No, it's just something that felt spiritual but not necessarily religious, you know. But I know why a lot
Yeah.
of people do confuse it because it's been intertwined for so many centuries now,
Well,
you know.
probably our inherent consciousness and how it works and our inherent spirituality has been hijacked by the church and used as like, oh, it's coming from an invisible deity, or it might not have come. I'm not very religious, as you can imagine, but yeah, no, I think in the few bits of experimental drug taking I've done, I think it's very interesting that it makes you more aware of yourself
Yeah,
in a way, which is
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, good.
Especially things like the shrooms or
Yeah,
stuff like that. That is like not necessarily a calm experience, but often a very positive one because kind of connects you with nature a little bit more. You know, it's
right.
and common sense, I guess. You know.
Sure. Your family is from a medical background, and one of the most
Yes.
interesting, you've told me in the past, which is great. Um, One of the, I think, is going to be an enormous key to understanding who we are, how we work, and the conscious brain is going to be looking at anesthesiology, anesthetics.
You think so? Why?
Oh, right. Okay. That's such a great topic because they work in mysterious ways. The idea of an anesthetic is that it doesn't kill you. Your body is still breathing and your heart's beating, but you have a lack of consciousness of your arm being sawn off or whatever your procedure you're having. And then when the anesthetic drug or and they're very odd what they are wears off, you go, oh, I'm back, and all that they do is obviously they work effectively as a pain blocker because we are not conscious of the pain. You see, I think a lot of people think, fill me up. Wait, you stop me hurting. When in fact, you're not stopping hurting. You're stopping being aware that you're hurt. Your body still has all the kind of adrenaline reactions of being hurt. Imagine if your arms being sawn off, all your veins and capillaries and muscles would do all the things that they do, but your conscious awareness of that procedure going on is blocked. And the Roger Penrose, who's looking at, who's a physicist in Cambridge, is looking at microtubules and
Yep.
is the brain have a physical conscious mechanism? Was approached by this anesthesiologist in the United States, who said, "Well, you should really look at how anesthetics work, because the way that we can block consciousness can reveal how consciousness works."
I think that anesthetics, if I'm not mistaken, and from what I gather,
Yeah,
they have to do with blocking electrical responses that go to the brain.
right.
That's what they essentially do. Uh, but when you spoke about microtubules, I find that really interesting because I think where this conversation about the creation of experience
Right.
through the mind, uh, mic- microtubules is like the latest that they have, but they're like the continuation of work that has been done since the
Uh,
70s or
okay.
60s. And in the 90s, uh, one of the main topics that I talk about on my channel is this Mexican doctor that I told you about.
Oh yeah.
Uh, do you remember what I told you about him? Jacobo Greenberg?
Tell me. Remind me.
So he is the founder of the Mexican Institute of Consciousness.
Oh,
And
great.
he studied shamans from Mexico for
Right.
many decades. And
Oh,
he came up with a theory called the synergic theory after he studied the most famous shaman in history, who is a woman named Pachita.
Conchita.
And when he witnessed what she did, he couldn't believe it because he has a scientific background. But
Okay.
this lady was, according to him, she was making spine transplants, heart transplants,
Oh,
some parts of the brain something impossible. It's like, what do you
okay.
mean? And he claims that he saw that. And in order to understand what he saw, he developed that theory, the synergic theory. And when he
Ooh.
was about to complete one of the Einstein Podolsky Rosen bridge
Okay.
uh, scientific work, he was
Hmm.
trying to prove that spooky action at a distance
Yeah.
was actually real, but he was trying to do it in the 90s. I know it was Nobel
Yeah.
Prize was given in 2022, wasn't it? About
Right. Yeah, I don't
this,
know.
but with particles.
Sure.
What Greenberg was trying to do was between minds.
Oh, right. Oh, I think it's all. Oh, I think that's. Oh, that's brilliant. I think it's all connected. I mean, I think that we need to. It's really interesting, Pavel, that suddenly physics, quantum mechanics, is now organic. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we are energy. We are just blobs of matter that work in a quantum universe, effectively, and
Our brains are quantum computers.
right. I mean, I think just accept that. And then as soon as we say our brains are quantum computers and have that ability, it starts immediately to explain how we have premonition, how we can have contact at a distance, and lots of things and abilities.
Telepathy.
Yeah, exactly. Telepathy suddenly becomes, oh, that I know how it works.
Yeah.
I found this amazing thing. I've been working with Russell Targ from Stanford Research, and he very much wanted me to be in touch with Uri Geller. And Uri's quite a difficult chap, and a lot of my viewers go, Uri Geller, he's bending spoons. Well, Uri Geller
Yeah.
didn't just bend spoons; he was
No.
the one of the leading remote viewers for the CIA. I mean,
Dr. Puharich brought him
right.
to Stargate, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He was in his 20s. He was already in Mossad in Israel,
Yeah.
and he had these abilities. And he went to Stanford Research, Russell and Hal put off, and others, and then that program turned into Stargate, and then that program became quite dark. And I'm literally today
Yep.
working on a film about future iterations of remote viewing, and how it became difficult for the CIA to do in the United States of America, because a lot of the money for funding it was coming from the religious right, and they thought that anything to do with psionics or remote viewing and predictions were possibly anti-Christian or maybe even demonic. So the CIA took a lot of those programs offshore, and I don't know if they came to Mexico. I'm sure they did, but they certainly came
So
to
this is
Europe.
where my investigation is right now, because
Oh, great. Me
in
too.
Greenberg's past, it was
Right.
found that he had ties to three-letter agencies,
Yeah,
and
of course.
it turns out that at UNAM, some of the funding that came to the laboratory where Greenberg was working,
Hmm.
it came from offshore.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's yeah. So
sure.
right now, what I think uh, happened, I'm not saying it did, but this is
Right,
where my theory is right now,
right.
is that they were trying to recruit him. They even brought him to the US to give lectures, and they treated him really nice because
Yeah,
they
of course.
wanted to offer him a job
Hmm.
on one of these dark programs.
Sure.
When he said no, they made him disappear.
Oh, he disappeared.
Yeah. In 1994, he disappeared. Coincidentally, he
Oh.
disappeared in December 1994. And on the next 6 months, Dr. Buharich died, and the Stargate program ended. Ended.
It changed its name, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know.
I don't know if you get this. I'm sure you do as a YouTube creator, but I wake up in the morning and 99% of the comments are making funny comments about my appearance. But
That's not
thank
very
you.
nice.
No, it's not very nice, but it's quite funny. I'm kind of used to it now. I'm not really Adam Savage, but anyway, but people think I am.
You do look like him a lot, though.
Yeah, we've never been seen in the same room together, so it's possible.
I did see that when the first time I saw you. I was like,
I get that every day. It's hilarious.
he's like his
But
brother or
I'm
something.
sure I know. Yeah, yeah. Well, no, the one that gets me is I'm his dad. Well, I'm actually the same age as Adam. So
That's mean. Yeah, that's
yeah,
mean.
I mean, obviously I've had a better life than Adam.
You
Probably.
enjoyed yourself more.
I certainly have more drugs. No, I mean more sheep. Yeah. No, it's been good. But Pavel, the just every day in the comments, somebody goes, Simon, can I tell you something? And I go, yeah, 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 go ahead. And yesterday I got such an interesting one that's just part of what we're talking about. He said, my mum worked in a mental hospital in Scotland, and actually, this is quite a dark story. And she had access to the whole hospital. It was a large hospital treating all age groups. And she said there was a wing run by the American Navy, who were looking at the abilities of mentally retarded Scottish children.
Whoa, that's dark.
It's dark. And so I went, is that true? So I read, as a journalist, and it turned out that the Scotland is obviously its own nation, being Scottish myself, and they have a parliament, which is their regional parliament in Edinburgh. And I looked into it, and the Scottish Parliament are investigating what happened in that hospital. They do know it happened. Who why what was going on? You've probably, like me, seen these films recently of these incredible autistic children who have the
Yeah,
ability to communicate with their mothers. um,
yeah.
I wonder if autism or some releases or unlocks some type of inherent human, because I think we all have it.
So let me tell you my
Abilities.
perspective on that, because
Yeah,
I think
do.
it's important to, because I've spoken to Dr. Diane Powell on the channel and
Oh,
to Kai
great.
Dickens as well. I had them
Oh,
both on the
cool.
channel. And in those conversations, what I gathered was that I have always thought that we all have that skill.
We
Uh,
do.
what these kids have.
Hmm.
The difference is that, just to give you an example, when someone goes blind or is born blind,
Oh,
they
yeah.
develop all of their other senses, and
Right.
they have hypersenses in their other senses. And I
Yeah.
think this is very similar, because an autistic child who doesn't speak, that's a
Yeah.
limitation that they have,
They're
and
cut off. Right.
yeah, and they have to develop their other senses, and
Which we all
intuition
have. Right.
and intuition,
Right.
precognition, and all this stuff. That's another sense that we have, everybody.
We have.
You know,
Hmm.
you can hone it, but it's obviously, uh, these children who have these limitations, physically,
Yeah.
they obviously, are more prone to develop that sense they have, way more than us, because it's really wild what they can do, honestly. But it's also not that surprising if
No,
you
we
think
all have
about
it.
it that
But
way.
what is shocking, and I think needs to be exposed, and I'm sure I'm going to get into deep trouble about this, and I'll try and do. I don't care. Yeah, but it seems that there was military interest in those abilities going way back.
Yeah,
And now that we're having Jake talking about mind control and psionics, and we know about Stargate and SRI and those
because
people, it's all coming together.
because to me, that story about psi abilities, I
Mm,
think that is way more important than all the rest that we're dealing with. Because,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
I don't think there's still, like, actual palpable evidence that these beings, or the abduction phenomenon, comes from beings that come from other planets, unless we managed a
no,
way to
right,
go through portals or something like that, or cut
yeah,
off time and space.
it's a
I don't
long
think,
way. Hmm.
yeah. So whatever those are, which is very real, because it's happened
They
to a
are
lot of
real.
people,
Hmm.
uh, I'm not sure they're from other planets. And what I think
Good.
is the most important story is this: we have these abilities. We
Hmm.
forgot about most of them,
Yeah,
throughout history, because of many different, factors, right?
right.
But the sooner we realize that we do have them and we
Hmm.
accept them as a reality,
Sure.
I think that we're going to, uh, overcome a lot of the different problems that are going on in the world right now. Because realizing that we have psi abilities, or these abilities, this
Mm,
intuition, and develop it, means that we're going to be more empathetic and more, um, proactive and more
yeah,
creative and all
and
that stuff,
connected. Hmm.
and connected. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
I think it maybe what we're doing right now is we're using language, we're talking, we're making noises out from our respiratory system down a microphone, and it's going into your room, and then you're hearing me. But in fact, what we could actually communicate. Hang on, oh crap, my computer's buggering. We could actually communicate like that, couldn't we?
telepathically.
Why
Yeah.
not? We could start a whole new channel. And on today's amazing episode,
And we start just laughing at every.
yeah. And if you enjoyed that, give it a thumbs up. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, it'd be great. Pavel, you're amazing, mate. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
being
man.
a friend. Um, there's very few of us doing genuine content creation on this subject. There's an awful lot
Yeah.
of AI cloney channels copying the stuff that we're doing, but you are the leading man. You are bringing these stories to the world. You have your people that you're connected to. I have mine. We're all slightly different, but we're talking about the same damn stuff, and we
Yeah,
live in interesting times. So keep it
we
up.
do.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting. Thank you, Simon. And I admire your channel, and the community you have are very nice. Every time I get a comment about you, it's always positive on my comments,
Yeah,
which is really
yeah,
cool. I
yeah,
like
and
that.
me as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They really like seeing us
So thank you for
communicating.
having me. It's been a long time coming. You've been on my channel 3 times already. So
Yeah, well, many more to come. As I
yeah,
say, I mean, as a European, I was very much worried by the regime change in the United States. But in fact, everybody listen to this very carefully. I think there's potentially could be a positive openness. You know, if this current regime is willing to blow things open and actually change the paradigm of government, excellent. But also, folks, look internationally. You know. Every
yep,
country has UAP. It's a worldwide
yep,
phenomenon, and there's lots of good research going on all over the planet.
yeah.
Excellent.
And look at the history too. The history is very important.
Yes,
Yeah,
good. Yeah, going back to the Mayans
yeah,
and beyond.
and beyond.
Yeah, all right. Pavel, thank you very much for your time today, sir.
Thank you for having me, man.
It's an honor, and yeah, keep up the good work. I follow you intently.
You too, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Have
Bye.
a good one.
Oh, thanks, Pavel. It's really good to keep up with what's going on in your world. Talking about UFOs can be thirsty work, but you can keep hydrated with Holy. The truth is out there.